Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be talking about the latest installment in the Ant-Man franchise for Marvel. This movie is called Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Let's get right into it. So to begin with, let's go over some of my overall thoughts. I will say I do think that this film is a decent Marvel movie. I think it's actually a decent movie overall. For me personally, I was quite engaged, and I think that they did a good job with the plotline overall. I think that I would recommend this to most fans of Marvel. More importantly, I would say that if you're just a fan of the first Ant-Man film, I think that this kind of does a good job of balancing out that trilogy overall, because I really feel like the second film was a bit of a downer. That being said though, how do I think of it in comparison to other Marvel films overall? I will say that I put it on the same level as Shang-Chi, which I placed at around a B tier film. So I would say if you want to have a good time, something that's like, worth your money, a good day to spend your evening with some friends, I would say watch this movie. For me personally, I actually classify this as a movie that I think only matches up with a couple of other things since Endgame, and that would be the latest Spider-Man film as well as Shang-Chi. I think this one comes in around those same couple of films. I think that it's around that same level. I like it more than I did Black Panther, which I actually quite liked that film as well. So, I mean, yeah, I think it's a good movie. It's a good time for you so long as you can stay engaged. I mean, I had some friends that I went with and they said that they struggled a little bit to stay engaged in the midpoint over there. So I would say, if you're willing to stay engaged, or if you have no difficulty staying engaged during Marvel movies, this is probably going to be a piece of cake for you. Not sure exactly what disengaged them. I think, according to them, the story did slow down a bit in the center of the film, or somewhere around the midpoint. So that did bother some people, and I don't really see that, so I don't know. I'm not going to really endorse that opinion since it's not something that I personally felt, but I think it would be worthwhile to throw it out there just so you guys know. If you haven't seen the film, go watch the film now and come back after that. Let's get into actual spoiler territory. I want to talk about Ant-Man Scott Lang's arc, okay? Honestly, I don't know that he really has one in this film. I think that in the beginning, he's essentially just like, oh, I've done my, Avengers thing, right? I've become an Avenger. I'm a superhero. I've done all the cool stuff now. I am just going to live my life. I'm happy. And, well, if the Avengers need me, I will be there in that moment when I need to be. But regardless, I'm not going to be going and looking for trouble. I'm just living my life, writing my book, having a good time. And by the end of the story, I feel like it's almost a cycle where he's right back where he started. And the journey itself, I felt like there was a moment where it almost felt like there would be a self-sacrifice, and it just doesn't happen. So specifically, I'm talking about the very end of the story, but let's just generalize a bit. So in the hero's journey, right, he has the refusal of the call, which happens right after he gets sucked into the quantum realm. He is asked by his daughter to help, and essentially his daughter and everyone thinks that he's just not really doing anything worthwhile now, and they don't really care about his book and all that stuff that's going on. Totally understandable. I actually get where all the other characters are coming from, and I pretty much agree, right? I mean, I don't think it's wrong that he wrote a book or anything like that. I actually will talk about that briefly at the end, but there's more important things that he could probably do, right? His wife is helping with renewable energy, I think, was one of the things, and the displaced people and stuff like that. Even his daughter is protesting a bunch of stuff. So it looks like everyone else around him is doing stuff that can be deemed as a bit more worthwhile. That being said, he's done a lot, he helped the Avengers and all of that stuff. So it's understandable that he wants a bit of R&R. He just wants to spend time with his family and all of that. Totally understandable. From there, though, he continues to refuse the call and only really takes it up when there's no other option but to have to fight, right? Essentially, he's just doing this to save his daughter, which is understandable. Again, I totally understand where Scott's coming from throughout the entire story and a lot of points, right? He's just trying not to get involved, trying to just live his life, be happy, until there's really nothing else that he can do. Even at the end, when he actually goes directly in confrontation with Kang, it's mostly just because he didn't get his daughter back after he did what he said he would do and all of that. But when you look at someone as a hero and their arc, it's very weird because Scott's journey isn't really that of a hero. It's more just he does what he has to do when he has to do it, and it's only when it's completely like only when it's affecting him is that's the only time when he's actually going to act. And he actually gets called out about this in the story by his daughter Cassy, which I found really interesting, right? I didn't expect that to be the way that the story would go, and I thought it was actually going to end with a moment of complete sacrifice, right? And it doesn't, which I find kind of strange. Let me explain. Before this, right, the idea is you can't really go to the quantum realm on purpose, right? No one has done it before on purpose so far. And yet, at the very end there, when they finally have a tool that's going to allow them to go back home to, Earth, and Scott ends up having to stay behind to prevent Kang from coming through. When all that happens, right, there is an issue that pops up, and it is that the device is destroyed, he's stuck, Kang is stuck. They fight it out, and then Hope comes back and helps him out. They both fight together, stop Kang, all of that, and they're just staring out, and it looks like they've just been stranded because the portal is closed now. And then like 5 minutes later, the portal is opened by a device that was said to not actually have a portal really down to the quantum realm, or at least they don't say that. They just say a signal is being sent down. So my assumption was they couldn't actually travel down there yet. That's not really the case, which kind of takes away the final sacrifice element of the story, which I think would have completed this arc for Scott. I honestly think even without Hope coming back at the end, it would have been really cool to see Ant-Man just give himself up because, well, he wants to protect his family, and he doesn't want this person to end up destroying the multiverse and going back on a warpath and all of that. So I thought it would have been a really good ending through that journey, but that's not what they chose to go with, and I found that to be a bit of a detriment to the story. Regardless, though, everything up to that point I think was really, really good because it was all kind of setting up to a sacrificial moment for Scott where he would have to choose to stop running away, stop giving up or shrugging his responsibility as an Avenger, as a hero, and to actually provide that moment of self-sacrifice again, right? Stop dwelling on what he has done and focusing on what he has to do now. And they just don't do that, which I feel like is a bit of a detriment to that story. Let me know if you guys agree with that, because I really do like the story. It's just that one piece that I think makes the story fall short in a lot of ways. I don't want Scott to die or anything like that. I mean, I would have been fine if he was just stranded at the end there for a period of time, and I think that they could have done that, but the fact that they chose not to, I feel like was just poor choice on the writer's part, because it could have been so much more monumental because it would have impacted Cassy, maybe have her go more along the lines of a Young Avenger path, and also have her become more prominent as a figure in the universe, maybe talk to the Wakandans, talk to Shuri specifically, some of the other geniuses within the universe to see if they can come up with a solution here. Let's switch over to Cassy herself. Now, I think the arc for her in this story is her becoming, in essence, a Young Avenger. I think that's where things are going to go down moving forward. However, I think that this story lays a decent groundwork for that, but it's very clear that it's still the Ant-Man story, right? Even Wasp's character, even Hope's character isn't as prominent as Ant-Man, and I think that being said, I would like to see more from Cassy before, a next Avengers film. I would like to see more just of that character and what she's about, and have her interact with maybe some of the other younger members of the superhero community. Getting back to the actual plot line, right? The entire idea here is Janet's been hiding stuff from the family, and I actually really liked this. The way that they went about sprinkling in parts of her past over the past 2 decades or something like that had happened while she was stuck in the quantum realm, her interweaved origin with Kang. I think all of that actually worked really well together, and it was kind of a nice way to have someone guide us through this new area within the quantum realm. I honestly want to see more. I think it would be really cool to see like a story where Janet is in the quantum realm and actually going through a lot of these elements, these story points that they go over and gloss over. I think that it would have been really cool to see a bit more of that journey and how her and I forget what the other character's name was that she had fought alongside against Kang with, but the two of them fighting Kang and all of the things that she had to do while surviving here, it would have been really, really cool to see more of that. So if they ever do like a mini series or something like that where she's the lead and maybe she's doing like a story time to Cassidy or something like that, just, you know, sharing her experiences in the quantum realm, I think that would be really, really cool to see. On the flip side, with Kang, right, we get a bit more of his backstory in this specific origin, and this seems to be the version of Kang that the One Who Remains wanted to prevent from existing, right? And it looks like that this shows a shift in the timeline from the original, right? Where the Conqueror was the one that took over and stopped the multiversal war. I think this is an inkling or a tease that things aren't going to go exactly the same way as they had in the previous war. So because this version of Kang doesn't actually get out and he doesn't survive, it's very clear that something new is going to come about from all of this. And I'm excited to see all of this stuff with the new Kangs and things like that. But for this specific version, I thought that his army especially was a bit of a letdown. I mean, come on. He expected to take over the entire multiverse with that, and yet he got destroyed at the end of that movie. I really, really enjoyed seeing this version of Kang, seeing the terrifying aspects. You know, him essentially having like a telekinetic suit that allowed him to have all these abilities, energy projection, and all of that. Very, very cool to see how powerful this version of Kang is, and now we'll be able to have a baseline of what to expect from the other guys, the other ones of him that are out there in the universe. And also, he created a weird version of MODOK. I just gotta throw that out there. I mean, having the Yellow Jacket come back as MODOK is very, very strange. Darren's character, like the way that he looked and stuff like that, I thought it was funny. I mean, his entire purpose seemed to be comedic relief, and he does achieve that in a lot of ways, but as someone who's not really a MODOK fan, doesn't really know much about the character, beyond like seeing him in a few animated pieces here and there, I don't really have anything to say against it. I think it was fine, but I do wonder, like, if someone who is really, really knowledgeable about this character, are they pissed off? Like, are they annoyed? If you are one of those people, let me know, because I mean, I don't really have an opinion here or there about MODOK. He's just like a floating baby head to me. So he's definitely not as imposing as I thought he could be because, you know, him as a member of AIM. I think when he's in AIM, he's one of like the heads or one of the big pieces there. So he does have a lot more weight, and he's surrounded by all these mini henchmen that pretty much follow his orders. That's my understanding of what MODOK is in the comic books. But, you know, that's whatever to me. I haven't seen too much of that character at all. So again, I don't have too much to complain about there. The Ant Army was something I thought was an interesting plot point. I'm glad that they actually brought it up at the start. They talked about it briefly here and there, and then they mentioned exactly what happened. They had different sprinklings as the movie went on, so it didn't feel completely out of place, but I am glad that they actually called back to those moments where where Hank was hearing feedback in his like earpiece and everything like that. It kind of put it together for people who weren't noticing that, because I didn't really spot that while the movie was going on. I think I did see one of the moments, but I didn't really think anything of it. Thought it was like, oh, just some weird static. So I'm glad they actually flashed back and explained what those pieces were as everything was coming together. Made everything feel a lot more fluid there for those of us who missed that moment. I think that the Ant Army is really funny as well, because it gives a reason as to why Kang's army gets destroyed so thoroughly, but at the same time, you would think that Kang and his army was a bit more prepared for things like that, but they just weren't. And I find that really, really funny, because, you know, why wouldn't he be more prepared if he's willing or capable to go against the entirety of the multiverse? That being said, it also brings to question, like, why don't we just bring back these ants and have them help out moving forward? I do hope that the ants come back in some way, because it would just kind of be strange if they're just stranded in the quantum realm moving forward and they have no presence in the war that is to come and stuff like that. So I hope they bring it back. We'll see, though. Now let's talk about Scott's book very briefly. I do believe that they actually made this a real book. I actually just double checked and it is on Amazon to purchase. I feel like it'd be really funny to actually buy this book and like read it, you know, see what it's all about. It'd be pretty funny. If I do that, I will do a review of the book itself and let you guys know my thoughts on that. I really like the cover as well, of just, you know, Scott looking like this, looking out like that or whatever. You know, it's a funny plot element and it's talked about a few times, and you know, it would be a fun read. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. I am thinking about it. I don't know if I'd get it right away because I have such a huge stack of books that I do want to get through that I've just had for a long time. So, you know, maybe something for later on down the pipeline. To end off though, I did want to mention the Council of Kang. I am really excited, right? They brought out, I think, 3 different versions as the main Kangs that we're going to see probably moving forward, and then they showed the entire Council of Kangs. So it's going to be very curious to see, because every time like Marvel has a council of some kind, I mean, they have the Council of Reeds for Reed Richards. They have, I think, a Council of Captain Britain as well, although I don't know as much about them. Like the council ideas of like a huge array of people from across the multiverse who are all the same person coming together for some common goal. You know, things are going to pop off when something like that happens. So I'm really excited to see what comes next there. That being said, that is all I have to say for this video. I enjoyed this movie. I do have some complaints, but that's mostly just specifically about Scott's story that I mentioned at the start. Let me know what you agree, disagree with in the comments below. If you liked the video, please like the video and subscribe for more videos from me on this channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Have a wonderful day. Bye.